I may have mentioned elsewhere on this channel that I'm quite a big fan of the Tech 3 cruisers in EVE Online, the strategic cruisers, and boy, these are such fun ships. I've talked in previous videos about how they work, I've showcased my love of the Tengu, but deep down I'm a bit of a Minmatar fanboy, so it was only a matter of time before I'd find myself able to fly the Loki. Now, because of how skill queues work, it was actually my ult that ended up picking up the Loki, so I'm running an autocannon variant of this, rather than the heavy assault missiles that you might otherwise expect. I adore this ship, and in this video I'm going to show you how I'm using this in wormholes, running C2 and C3 combat sites, and making some surprisingly good ISK per hour. Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie, and I'm both a fanboy for the Tech 3 strategic cruisers and the Minmatar Republic. I like shield tanking, I like signature tanking, and I like missiles, so it was only a matter of time before I ended up flying the Loki on this channel. That said though, a bit of an unusual side note here. Because of how my skill queues lined up, I ended up actually training the Loki on my industrial ult, the same ult that I have Silent Rose, my Hurricane on. Therefore I already had autocannon skills, so it's actually going to be an autocannon Loki that I'm showcasing today. I will eventually skill into the Loki on my main as well, so that I can make the best use of heavy assault missile skills as well, and try out that variant, so do stay tuned if you're interested in seeing a heavy assault Loki. That said, I've also got a video for both the Proteus and the Legion on the way, because yeah, I'm just addicted to tier 3 cruisers. These things are so much fun. Anyway, in today's video, what we're going to be doing is taking a look at the Loki, talking about why I love it. I'm going to show you how I fit it and talk about why I fit it in this particular way, and then I'm going to showcase it running a couple of sites, C2, C3 in J-Space. Now, if you are interested in starting a life out in wormholes, as a bit of a fun aside, I'm also currently penning a collected guide to all things wormholes. You see, in Catskull we recently set up base in J-Space, we've got a load of us out there now, and because I like to teach people, I was kind of sitting there saying, well, you need this guide to identify wormholes, this guide to do this guide to do that, and kind of linking people all over the place. So I decided that I would create EVE Online's first ever fully collected guide or primer to life in wormholes. Do stay tuned and join our Discord if that sounds like something you might be interested in. Otherwise then, let's jump right in on this one. Like the other Tech 3 strategic cruisers, the Minmatar Republic Loki has 4 subsystem slots, and oh boy am I glad that I got the configuration I did, because one of the cores looks absolutely terrible, and it was one of the ones that a lot of people were recommending to me. So let's have a look at those first, and then we'll talk about the rest of the fit after, and how you can modify and change this, and move it around to where you might want it to be. So starting off then with the core, the Immobility drivers. I have gone for these because this is a Loki. The entire point of the Loki, as far as I'm concerned, one of its major advantages compared to the others is this subsystem. This 25% bonus per level of Minmatar core subsystems, which I have at 5, so that's 125%, bonus to Stasis Webifier optimal range, then a 10% or 50 at full training to the benefits of overheating Stasis Webifier modules. Finally, a 25% reduction in module damage from overheating. This gives us a decent amount of mid slots and low slots as well. This is absolutely designed for the Stasis Webifiers, and fortunately it's the core system that I actually like the look of most. This sort of front system here with these 2 prongs. One of the other ones, the Augmented Reactor, which a lot of people were talking about and recommending, it looks awful, so I'm so glad that we got this one. Now for the defensive subsystem, I'm going to be running here a Covert Reconfiguration, because of course I am. I'm living in wormhole space, and if you know anything about me, you know that I am a little bit obsessed with Covert Ops cloaks and the ships that can use them. Therefore, given any opportunity to fit a Covert Ops cloak, I'm pretty much going to take it. This gives us a roll bonus, 100% reduction in cloaking devices CPU requirement, a 10-point bonus to Relic and Data Analyzer virus strength, and occasionally I will take this out and go hacking Relic and Data sites, but I tend to do that on my main character in something like a cheater nowadays. Can fit Covert Ops cloaking devices and Covert sinusoidal field generators. Obviously the cloaking device is what we want there, and the cloak reactivation delay reduced to 5 seconds. Pretty fun. Accidentally drop your cloak to something, it's only 5 seconds before you can recloak, and you can just be really sneaky with this thing. Some really nice stat bonuses here as well. The only downside to this really is the 5 meter increase to your signature radius, which does mean you're a little bit quicker to lock, but if you're using your cloak correctly, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Our Minmatara defensive systems, again I've got these up at 5. The bonuses here, 10% or 50% bonus to core and combat scanner probe strength, really helps me scan stuff down nice and quickly, so I do often use this for mapping wormholes and tripwire. A 7.5%, 37.5 at full training to armor repairer and shield booster effectiveness. Really nice, gives you those bigger boosts there just to help keep your shield or armor repaired, because you can go both ways with the Loki. Armor Loki is a thing, shield Loki is also a thing. 7.5% bonus, 37.5 to the benefits of overheating armor repairers and shield boosters. So you may be noticing that training into thermodynamics is probably something you want to do here as well, but nice. Cool. That brings us on to the weapon subsystem, the offensive subsystem. Now, there are 3 options we have for this. We've got one that is for heavy assault missiles, which is the one I thought I would be going for when I first got a Loki. The other one is for remote shield repairers. The third one here, though, is the projectile scoping array, which, as the name suggests, gives you bonuses to projectile turrets. Because this alt already had skills for the Hurricane and the medium projectile turrets, it just made sense to build a Loki that utilized that. So, 17.5% bonus to medium projectile turret damage. Again, the math on that is going to break my head at the moment. That's 87.5% bonus, I think, increase there to medium turret damage. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. A 25 at full training or 5% per level bonus to the optimal range and fall off of turrets, which is really nice. And a 25 or 5 per level bonus to medium projectile turret tracking speed. You can run autos, you can run artillery. I'm going to be running autos on this, as you'll see why later, and ultimately you get some really nice bonuses there. Tracking bonuses really help autos, the fall-off bonuses really help autos, and you know what? I'm not going to shake my fist at optimal range either, that's quite nice to have, and that is a big bonus to your damage there with medium projectile turrets. Finally, a roll bonus, 25% reduction in the power grid and CPU fitting requirements of medium projectile turrets. Just helps get them on the ship easier, right? Nice layout here, 7 high slots, of which 5 are turret hardpoints and 2 are launcher hardpoints. One of those is obviously going to be our probe launcher. We can do other stuff there as we like. Decent amount of power grid and CPU, and we get some drone bandwidth with a drone bay as well. 5 light drones. It's nothing crazy. 5 light drones, 2 standard drones, or 1 heavy drone can fit in this. I'm going to be running the full flight of 5 light drones because I have the skills for those, because I was an industrialist and thus training into the venture and stuff beforehand. So yeah, nice little bit there that gives us a bit of split on DPS. Nothing crazy, as you'll see, but ultimately that's where we're going with that. Finally then, we have propulsion subsystems. Here I have gone for the wake limiter. Now ultimately there are a couple of different options here you can go for. There is one that just gives you a flat bonus to your ship's agility and flight velocity. I've gone for the wake limiter. This gives us a 10 or 50% at full training bonus to Afterburner velocity bonus and a 10% reduction in micro warp drive signature radius penalty. You'll notice this is a bit of a weird one. You don't get a bonus to your micro warp drive flight velocity, only to Afterburners, but you do get a 50% reduction in the signature radius penalty for having an active micro warp drive, which is pretty nice in PvP. The reason I go for the wake limiter though is for the 2 mid slots. I don't need additional lows at this point. Mids are kind of where it's at for me. So, with all of that fitted, this is our slot layout around here. Look at all those juicy mid slots. We'll talk about those in a moment. Now, I've mentioned, of course, we're going to be running autocannons, so I've gone for all 5 turret slots being filled with 425mm Autocannon IIs. I carry both barrage and hail. This, essentially, because we're going up against sleepers, and sleepers have that wonderful thing of not giving a damn about what type of damage you deal, you just kind of can go for the highest overall damage, Barrage M or Hail M. Hail M obviously when we are in range, but since there are some sleepers that like to be absolute gits, orbiting at say 30 kilometers with multiple webs active and things like that, we do need the barrage there as well so that we can hit things a little bit further out. But mostly it's going to be Hail for the damage, barrage for the range. So you can see here that's giving us 443.5 DPS overall. If I were to swap this around, let's remove the charge here of now 688.7 DPS. That is a lot of DPS to kick out from a cruiser. Pretty happy with that. And the rest of the high slots, we've then got that Covert Ops Cloaking Device 2 and an expanded probe launcher that gives us the ability to combat scan and to core scan as required. Again, obviously you don't necessarily need to go expanded if you know you're not going to be PvPing. For example, this isn't a great PvP fit. I don't really want to do it, but I like having those core, the combat scanner probes out and about sometimes, just to kind of scare people off, and it can be really useful at times just to pretend that you're a cloaky, angry Loki, and just scare people off by combat probing them. For all of those juicy mid slots though, oh boy. So let's start at the bottom. Gistum C-type 10 meganewton afterburner. We are going to be sig tanking most of the anomalies we fight in. We want decent speeds, we want high angular velocities. It's going to be a 10 meganewton afterburner. I've gone for a Gistum C-type because it's pretty good and it's still pretty cheap as well. We then have a Thukker large cap battery. I know a lot of you have commented that how I say Thukker makes you kind of double listen for a second, but hey, you know, that's how it goes. And a dark blood cap recharge. These two together gives us not exactly the best capacitor stability. Again, that's partly due to the skills I have on this ult, but they're pretty, you know, it's stable. The point is it's stable. It's not stable under multiple newts, but I don't need to worry too much about that because I can just kill the neuted ships, or I can cycle the shield booster for the most part. The only thing I have running at all times here is the Afterburner and the Multispectrum shield hardener. When it comes down to it, the shield booster you can just cycle as required to help your capacitor stability. In the mid slots, Caldari Navy, Stasis Webifier, Caldari Navy because we want that extra bit of range for them. Remember, we get some rather insane Webifier range bonuses. 29 kilometer Caldari Navy Stasis Webifier, 55% reduction to target ship's velocity within 29 kilometers. That's pretty useful, especially for some of the faster sleepers that can be a little bit more annoying otherwise. Then we come to the tank. Now for the tank, we're starting off with a Dread Guristas Multispectrum Shield Hardener. We need something that uses a little bit less power grid because this is very tight on your power grid. Ultimately, yeah, so we're going to go with a Dread Guristas Multispectrum Shield Hardener and a Pith A-type Shield Boost Amplifier. This then coupled with a large C5L Compact Shield Booster gives us some ridiculous reps per second. If I were to sit and simulate this, you'll see that what we are actually getting here is a 468 hit point bonus per 4 seconds. Nearly 500 hit points in 4 seconds. 120 HPS. That's pretty nice in this kind of thing and allows us to tank stuff pretty nicely, especially since we have decent resistances. It's explosive. Curiously, is the weakest hull on the Loki here. 67% on that. Everything else is 73% or higher on the shields. We are obviously therefore reducing our incoming damage quite nicely. Down here, 2 Gyrostabilizers, both Republic Fleet Gyrostabilizers, giving us a little boost to that DPS that we saw earlier. Our drones, it should be mentioned, I'm just running Republic Fleet Warriors, but of course you could go Warrior 2 or whatever the heck you fancy. 41 DPS, nothing huge, but it does push us over the 700 mark in total if we're attacking the same ship with them. Finally then, for the rig slots, a medium EM Shield Reinforcer 2, a medium Kinetic Shield Reinforcer 2, and a medium Thermal Shield Reinforcer 2. Straight up reinforcer blocks there, just to push up those percentages and make sure we have nothing that is a gaping hole, meaning we take a load of extra damage. That's the fit. Is it perfect? Probably not, and I'm sure some of you have some really cool suggestions in the comment section. Drop them down there. I will respond because I'm happy to tweak these fits and have a look around and, you know, see how I can improve on this, especially as this character's non-industrial skills start improving as well. But all very well and good to talk about the fit itself. let's actually jump out there and showcase it. Although, before we do, worth just briefly pointing out, I will put a link to this fit in the description of the video as well, so you can copy and paste that in as needed. A lot of you have been asking about that. I need to just remind myself every time I make a video in order to do that. Anyway, let's jump into the combat demonstration. The most irritating thing happened to me whilst I was filming this. I've jumped out into a fortification frontier stronghold, which is one of the combat sites commonly found in C3 J-space systems. I got disconnected, I lost all of the footage of the first half of the anomaly, but as you can see, I'm actually still pretty safe. The first wave has already been killed, we're halfway through wave 2 at this point. Now it's worth noting, when you run a C3 combat site, the first thing you should do is drop your mobile tractor unit on arrival and bookmark it. Get into the habit of bookmarking your mobile tractor units the second you've dropped them, so that you can easily get back to them if you have to warp off for whatever reason. Now, in this case, you'll see that I am descanning like an absolute ninja. I'm just constantly spamming that. I'm worried my V key is actually going to, drop off my laptop at this rate. I've been told that there is a Vedmak and some friends who have been drifting around these systems. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go out and film this anyway, even with those risks, because if I have that drop on me, that makes for some really cool footage, right? So here we are, halfway through wave 2. Remember, whenever you jump into any C3 combat site, know what your triggers are and which ships you need to kill first. This second wave, for example, it has 2 awakened upholder cruisers. These like to orbit at 30 kilometers. They have some pretty powerful webs which can be really annoying, and energy neutralizers as well, just to really mess with you, and 2 awakened defenders, I think they are. Annoyingly, the upholders are the triggers, so you can't just kill both of them or you'll spawn wave 3. So in wave 2, I kill one of the upholders instantly and then go after the defenders, then come back for the upholders. The first wave in a fortification frontier stronghold is 2 frigates that have some nasty E-war and 2 cruisers, which again are just the awakened defenders. Fortunately, it's the defenders this time that are the triggers, so you can go after both of those frigates instantly and not worry about accidentally triggering wave 2. As it goes though, you can see we're quite comfortably going through this, chewing through that awakened upholder. Here comes wave number 3. Now wave number 3, again, it doesn't matter what order we kill anything in here because there are no triggers, it's the last wave. We have a sleepless upholder. This is a battleship that does extraordinary amounts of damage, and probably we want to take care of it quickly. However, we also have another awakened upholder. Again, these are neuting and webbing. That's going to be a problem because if I'm webbed, then my sig tank is going to be weaker. If I'm neuted, then my shield booster is going to pull through my capacitor too quickly. And to add insult to injury, we then have an awakened preserver, which is a frigate that has remote reps on it. So if you go for anything other than the awakened preserver, yeah, you have a chance of it just sitting there and repping everything. Now, normally I go after the upholder first, but I'm at such range here, I kind of just wanted to try and take out that awakened preserver on the way in, and this may not be the best option. Ultimately, I should still be going after that upholder because that web speed is really hurting me. And you can see I'm actually taking quite a bit of damage. I'm not overly focused here at this point. I'm descanning and I'm just kind of trying to kill that preserver as quickly as possible. But what I should be doing, I've got my orbit set to 5 kilometers. What I should be doing is spiraling inwards. And you see, as soon as I double click off to the side and start to manually pilot in that direction, suddenly that sleepless upholder is not doing as much damage, and the shield booster is beginning to actually make some ground back, which is very important. I've also kind of split my drones at this point onto the awakened upholder and the awakened preserver. The preserver's about to die, so I'm going to move onto the upholder and try ripping that apart quickly to get rid of those super annoying webs and that newt. Now the upholder as well, the sleepless upholder, does similar E-war to you, but again, it's a battleship, so it's got a boatload of hit points. I would rather kill the awakened upholder first, because it's going to die quicker, which gives me less time under that ship's newts and webs, and then I can focus on the sleepless upholder. The Awakened Defenders are primarily just DPS boats, not a huge threat at all. We will deal with them last. And I mentioned earlier that I'm doing a primer on everything you need to know about wormholes. Of course, in that primer I will have pages that list every single combat anomaly, what the triggers are, how much DPS each of the ships does, what they have in terms of E-War, how many hit points they have to kill, that kind of stuff, so you can plan nice and easily what kind of content you want to go to. I'm having a bit of fun with Adobe InDesign on that one. I might actually even print out a couple of copies. I don't know the legalities of that actually, but I don't know, it'll be a freely distributed PDF once I'm done with it. Otherwise though, you can use resources like, for example, I usually have my phone next to me, so I can pull up Eve Survival and just quickly type in the, so I usually just Google Eve Survival and then the name of the anomaly, in this case a Fortification Frontier Stronghold, Fortification Frontier Outpost. I'll get there in the end. I type that into Google with Eve Survival and it gives me this really cool website that basically lists everything, all of the DPS that those ships do, the type of damage and neutralization that they can bring back, webs, that kind of thing, how much HP they have. Allows me to plan ahead of time. There are some sites that do scare the ever-living bejesus out of me. The Outpost Frontier Fortification or Outpost Frontier Stronghold or whatever it's called. Those are pretty scary, especially the final wave of that does a lot of DPS, and you've got some really quite powerful high alpha turrets in there as well. Some towers that you just kind of have to be really careful with. Solar cells I have no problem with in this field. I actually find them easier despite the fact they're technically scarier. Solar cells, not a problem. Fortification Frontier Outposts, not a problem. And the other one, I forget, is the Aruz. I think the Aruz Construct or something like that. That one, again, is a little bit scary, so I tend to stick to Solar Cells and Fortification Frontier Outposts, in the Loki at least. Obviously, other ships have a better or worse time against different things, but there we go. Ultimately, we're now at the point in this particular anomaly where that Sleepless Upholder is about to break through its armor tank and go for the super weak hull, so it's about to go down very, very quickly. Again, I am constantly descanning. I know that there's a Vedmak and some friends of his prowling around this area. I really don't want them to jump in on me, but kind of excited if they do because it would be cool footage anyway. Otherwise, with that one down now, with that Sleepless Upholder down, onto the two Awakened Defenders, going to orbit nice and close and just rip them apart. At this point, you can kind of see there's no reason really for me just to keep here talking and showing boring footage. I am going to skip ahead. So I just kind of want to showcase how to clean up after a C3 as well, because I've seen some people, struggle's the wrong word, but I think make some rather obvious mistakes. So the second that last ship goes down, I'm warping out. You'll notice I've actually pulled my drones in ahead of time because I know the sleepers die really quickly once I hit their hull. I pull the drones back the second I start hitting the hull and just let my cannons finish that off. That means if I warp out, I don't lose my drones. Whilst I'm warping out, you can see I got a wonderful lag spike here, which is just beautiful. I have cloaked up, so I don't care all that much. I cloak up on the way out, just to be certain. I warp to something at 100 kilometer range. That can be the wormhole back home. That could be anything, just any sort of celestial or object that you can warp to at a range of 100. I warp out of the anomaly, and then as soon as we are ready, back into the bookmark list, where I then warp to the mobile tractor unit. I personally, you should really warp at 20 kilometers just in case someone is trying to steal your loot or wait for you, and thus when you come back in, you don't automatically decloak yourself. Sometimes you do decloak at 10, by the way, because you just land, because of the randomness of where you land. I do recommend jumping in at 20 and then slow boating through. The reason I'm showcasing this though is I have watched some players, genuinely I've watched some players who literally just, they're 110 kilometers away from the mobile tractor unit and then they just burn towards it, and it's like, why would you do that? So I scoop everything, open cargo, and then, loot all, then I scoop, and then I remove the location. You, again, really should do that when you're warping out because you're safe. I've also got someone currently messing with bookmarks, so it's taking, it's editing those and moving things around, which meant I misclicked for a second there. Reload on the way out just to be sure, and as soon as we're in warp, I will once again put on that cloak, and then we're done. And there we go, that is the Minmatar Republic Loki Tech 3 Strategic Cruiser. I love this ship. Does it replace the Tengu for me? No, but that's why it's on a second character. I think once I have a Loki with heavy assault missiles fitted, that's gonna give the Tengu a run for its money. I don't know what it is about the Tengu that just pulls ahead for me. It could even just be the visuals, because whilst I love the look of the Loki, the Tengu, there's just something so cool about it. I've also recently just been playing around with the Legion, another one of the Tech 3 cruisers that I'm running with heavy assault missiles on my main. I've got a lot of interesting things to say about that, so if you're interested in Tech 3 cruisers, please make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. I will be doing some giveaways soon as well, as part of the EVE Partner Program. So stay tuned, make sure you're watching the videos, and, well, yeah, good luck. Otherwise, though, folks, thank you for watching right the way through to the end. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down. Would love to know what kind of fit you are running if you fly a Loki, or which your favourite Tech 3 cruiser is. Otherwise, happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!